very sad mind, anyway. When you be remembered for one thing in all your career of 32 years of refereeing, it'll probably be because of This Is Not Soccer.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of RugbyPass Offload with me, Christina Mahan. And today I'm joined by Ryan Wilson and Simon Zebo. How is it going, guys?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
All good this end in beautiful sunny Scotland.
So we're absolutely delighted to be joined by one of the greatest names in rugby, the legendary Nigel Owens, to discuss the controversial talking points over the weekend and celebrate his incredible international career. So welcome, Nigel.
Hello there. I thought you were speaking about somebody else there for a minute.
Well, Nigel, we're going to start with this weekend's drama. Yeah. So there has been such a huge influx in red cards over the last 3 weeks. Like there was even 5 red cards this weekend alone. So what do you put this down to?
They were all in the Gallagher Premiership, mine. So the Pro 14 players are behaving, just to let you know.
For once, Ryan.
Yeah, like it is a physical game. You're gonna get impacts, you're gonna get contacts, you're gonna get big hits, and I don't think anybody wants that to change. It's part of the game. It's why people fell in love with the game. But I think if you look at all those red cards, they were, at the very least, very reckless actions. They were all illegal actions from the beginning, and I think, and the boys can probably talk about it better than I can. I think what you really do need now, you really do need player behavior to change. You can't go in clearing out, leading with the shoulder anymore, or your arm tucked down by your side, or you can't play a man in the air. You can't go charging in and body checking, because if you get it wrong and you make contact with somebody's head, you're going to get sent off. You're going to reduce your team to 14 men. But more importantly, you're putting other players in danger. And I think the game is at a bit of a crossroads, I think. If you want the game to continue to grow, if you want the kids to play rugby, if you want the parents to want the kids to play rugby, then we have to get rid of this reckless action, the needless charging in with the shoulder first and then catching somebody in the head. Whether you've tried to do it deliberate or not, is pretty much irrelevant, because you've been very reckless in the action that you're doing. So, we really need to get players to change their behavior around that, I think. We don't want to lose the big hits. We want the massive hits. You're going to get the big clear outs, but we really do need to get them legal as well. And I think there's an onus on everybody involved in the game, I think, to make sure that we get that right.
Well, say with the forearms to the head, do you think that these were always happening and it's just now that the video refs are more authoritative with their calls, hence why we're seeing so many of these incidents? I suppose, guys, I can open that up to Zeebs and Ryan as well. Like, what do you all make of that?
Well, I don't think, if you look at what we've seen during COVID, you've seen some replays of games back 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. The games are very different back then to what it is now. I think what is happening a lot now is you are tending to find players off their feet a lot more around the contact area. So when people come in to clear out, they're clearing out people who are already on the ground. And that's where the mistakes happen. That's when players get it wrong. When you had players upright in the ruck properly formed, which means players are on their feet over the ball, players were coming in, you were binding onto a teammate or binding onto an opposition, and then you were physically moving players away. Now it's a very different game now, and I think it's because of the trend, the way the game is being played, and also as well the way the game is being refereed. That's why we're seeing more of this. So I think if we get back to actually refereeing the laws and keeping players on their feet, then we'll get rid of a lot of this illegal action, I think. And just one clear example before the boys put their point of view across is in law, it's quite clear you cannot willfully collapse a ruck. So technically you can't pull a man down, you can't croc roll somebody once a ruck is formed, because it's illegal to collapse a ruck. But it's not refereed. It's not played like that anymore. So if you were to referee the laws and apply the laws, which means you can't croc roll or pull somebody or twist somebody to the ground to move them, you've got to sort of physically try and move them in a rucking motion off the ball, then you wouldn't see these type of croc rolls happening anymore. So it's the way the game has been played and coached and is developed, and actually the way it's been refereed and not applying the actual laws is why I think contributes a lot to what we're having and seeing at the moment with these illegal clearouts, I think.
I agree. I reckon, see like tackle technique, Nige. you look back, it was like, and if my old man explained to me what a rugby tackle was, it's running in and hitting them waist height, grabbing hold of someone and driving them backwards. Now you're bringing in choke tackles because that's one of these things you can do now. 2-man tackles is it's like the rage at the moment. 2-man tackles, choke a player up, it turns into a maul. A couple of those reds at the weekend were players trying to get the double shot.
Yeah.
And as the players carrying in, just catching a head on a shoulder. So you've got these players tackling high now, trying to choke. So many of these things are due to the way we are being coached and, like you said, the way the laws are. Again, that forearm thing, the amount of players that used to do it. I mean, DTH Van der Merwe, I remember, that's all he used to fend people off of that. You have to hand off. You can't. You should just take it out, completely take it out, which we have. But it should just go back to hand off. Look at the old school rugby. I know exactly what you're saying. Some of that stuff cracked me up in the lockdown, watching it back. But they go for the full stiff arm. That was the whole rage, wasn't it? But the way the game's progressing. Yeah. One thing that did make me laugh was when Paul O'Connell, I can't remember, it was the big second row for Wales, and they were going at it like a UFC fight on the floor, like full on punching each other. And whoever the ref was pulled him in and said, "Listen, I didn't see what happened down there. Make sure it doesn't happen again." I wish I was alive back then.
Oh, brilliant.
I think it's like Ryan said. It's probably what the coach and I have no idea on the coaching front of things from a playing point of view. But obviously, what coaches want to do now is prevent the offloads. So you go in, one tackle's low, one tackle's high. You win that collision area. You drive the opposition back. You're then on the front foot. You get the momentum, and you prevent the offload. So because you have those 2 tackles happening, this is why then so many people get it so wrong. So, and what you mentioned there, the law is quite simple. If you want to hand a player off, you use the hand. You can't use a forearm. So again, people have a go at the laws sometimes and they say, "Oh, they need to change the laws." No, you don't need to change the laws. What you actually need is the laws to be applied, played to, and actually refereed. And I think it's come to a time now where if you're not going to get coaches and players to play within those boundaries of the laws, and just as importantly, or more importantly, if you're not going to get referees to actually apply the law as it is, then I think people really need to sit down and have a look at the laws and say, "Well, right, we need to change this." And because some of these laws are not even refereed anymore, so why are they there if we're not going to apply them? But I think they are there for a reason and they need to be applied.
Absolutely. So do you think, from all the incidents that happened over the weekend, do you think that all of those 5 red cards were warranted?
Yeah, I think pretty much sure. That there's 1 or 2 of them which are clear, nailed on, reckless, straightforward red cards. There's probably another 1 or 2 where you're thinking, well, I understand what the player's trying to do here and he's got it wrong. But because he's got it wrong, because he was already doing an illegal action, and then whatever happened then before him, he was unable to adapt or change that action, it's resulted in him having a correct red card. So a couple of them are pretty straightforward red cards. The others, I think, well, yeah, I can understand why the player's got this wrong, but at the end of the day, it is a red card. So yeah, I don't think you can have any arguments really over the red cards that were given. And these 2 boys won't like it, but I don't think you can have much argument over the 2 red cards in the 6 Nations.
I can have an argument with you about it, Nigel.
Disgraceful.
I don't know. Did they see the one? What's the big fella's name? Leidenberg? Was he a 6 or the lock for Leicester? I don't think he's looking at Josh Bassett. If that's his name, I don't think he's looking at him at all. I think he's watching the ball the whole time. And literally, Bassett has jumped bloody high. And as he's taken his eyes from the ball, he's realised, shit, he's jumped and he's right in front of me. And he's gone to protect himself. I genuinely don't think he's attempted to tackle that guy at all. The ball even goes over the top of Bassett. But it was the way the referee, it almost sounded like, listen, I'll be careful here. But like, there was 2 reds already. Oh, this will really mix it up. We chuck another red in. And I don't think it should have been a red. I really don't think it should have been a red.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Zeebs, you probably, because,
it's so
for you guys who get up in the air, it's dangerous, isn't it?
Incredibly dangerous. 1 half rotation and he could land on your neck. It's incredibly dangerous. I agree. I thought it was a red card. But I was going to ask, do you think there's any leeway around bringing somebody else on after, a red card without intent, malice intent, I suppose, how to put it?
Yeah,
well, Nigel, this actually, I do have, so we have been discussing this on the pod for the last few weeks, and we've come up with the idea of an orange card. So Ryan, do you want to take Nigel through what we have suggested and see what he thinks?
The amber card, Nigel, this is it. Like, we've solved it. We've solved all the issues in rugby. Amber card, if it's a professional foul, like something like what your man did, jump in and they say, look, you didn't mean to do it, or one of these ones where a player's carrying in and they drop to carry the ball and they clock someone's shoulder, right, shoulder to head contact, sorry, red card to the player, but he was dropping, it wasn't my fault, sir. There you are. There's your amber card. 20 minutes off, bring someone else on. Punching, all the dangerous stuff, which I'm against. The punching, the eye gouging, the biting, all the stuff that Dylan Hartley does.
Yes, on a regular basis, every week.
Yeah, all the stuff that Dylan does, red, get off the pitch. All the stuff that I do, accidental things, or the clumsy blokes, amber, 20 minutes off, bring someone else on, 15 aside, doesn't ruin an international match.
If you were living in a glass house, there'd be no pains left there. I think it's got a value point around a good discussion about it. There's 2 points I would bring up here to think about. Is the first one is, if it really is one of those which doesn't really merit, or it's a very unlucky, or does it deserve to be a red card, then should it be a red card? But a red card is the ones which, it's nailed on, it's red, you're gone. So if you go one where you're thinking, and we've had this in games in the past, it's one of those orange ones where it's in between. Some refs will be thinking that's a yellow to me, and some will be thinking red, and that's what a lot of players and a lot of public would think. It's a split decision. So on those ones, if it's not a really nailed on red, then you're going to ask yourself, well, why am I giving a red then if it's one of these that is not really nailed on a red? So that's the first point. The only worry I would have, particularly with and substitutions and the amount of substitutions, is another scenario which I think should be reduced, but that's a different topic. With a squad of 23, what you want, I think, one of the biggest deterrents to stop players giving a red card is one, player safety, getting them to understand the danger they put themselves or opposition players in. And also as well, the fact that your coach is going to be drumming into you, boys, we're not going to win games if we're down to 14 men. We've seen it in the Six Nations, whether Wales will go on to win, who knows? But, we were lucky against Ireland, down to 14 men. I thought against Scotland, Ryan may disagree with this, I thought against Scotland, we were starting to get control of the game up front around that period of time anyway, but that's a different discussion. No. So a deterrent of a red card plays a huge part in players' behaviour and change of behaviour. And I just wonder, if you do bring in an orange card where that player can be replaced, is that then taking away a deterrent of, look lads, there's no way you want to play this game with 14 men. Does that mean, well, if we do get a player sent off, we're going to be back to 15 players in 20 minutes. Will that play a part maybe in preventing this type of action that we want to get out of the game? And that's the only question and maybe thing I think we need to discuss and think about before everybody jumps on the bandwagon, yes, let's go for an orange card, because it does maybe take away then the fact of, a bit more. It's a little bit like the TMO. When you didn't have the TMO, you had to make damn sure you were in the position to make the right decision. A little bit like the guy walking in the circus on the tightrope. If you're walking across that tightrope in the circus and you haven't got the safety net, the TMO underneath you, you're going to make damn sure you're going to be focused and you're going to get to the other side. If you put that safety net of the TMO underneath you, I don't really care if I fall here because I've got a safety net to save me. That then takes away the edge of you refereeing, which I believe is happening a lot now with a TMO, because they know, don't worry if we miss something, we can go and check it. That takes away the little bit of edge you need, I think. So there are a couple of things. It's a value point you're bringing up, and it's one that's certainly worth a discussion around. But I think there are other points that need to come part of the equation as well.
Where did Ryan, where did Jamie say that this has been trialled? Because it has been trialled somewhere in some league.
I think they're about to trial it in the MLR, is what I've heard. The amber card in the MLR.
I think it's
How long
trialling in
this
Super
field
Rugby
was.
now as well, isn't it? In Aotearoa in New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Same as the captain's challenge for the referee as well. That's been trialled in the Super Rugby Aotearoa in New Zealand as well.
they heard the amber thing on the podcast and then
They
trialled it,
ran with
apparently.
it. Yeah,
Well, I hope
we're really annoyed at
I hope you
that.
got a copyright for all those amber cards. You'll make a fortune.
Tell me about it.
And the only thing is here, and I don't want to. I'm not saying that this will happen, but is there a danger then? Maybe. And again, this is me thinking as a referee as well. Is there a danger if you do have the amber card? Will a referee then think, "Oh, I'll give an orange here because I don't want to give the controversy"? Or not. I'm saying the referee won't want to give a red card, but is it an easier option? Or I'll give an orange here, a safer bet than giving a red. You have to think about that as well.
Xander Fagerson last week, amber card.
I don't know.
The problem I have with that, Ryan, is like, and I have all sympathy with players going in to clean out and move people, because if you're not there quick enough to clear out immediately, and you're busting the get to get there, you're going to get there at speed. So I understand that. The only issue I had with Xander Ferguson was that his arm was tucked down by his side here, and he went in with his shoulder with his arm behind him. Then you're always illegal. It's a little bit like if you're going down the street doing 40 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone, and somebody runs out in front of you last minute, it doesn't matter how late they run out in front of you. It was unavoidable for you. You couldn't avoid hitting them. You haven't got a leg to stand on because you were doing 40 miles an hour, which you shouldn't have been doing. If you're going down that street doing 30 miles an hour and somebody runs out in front of you and you couldn't do nothing to avoid it, then you're not at fault because you were doing everything legal. Now, again, if you're driving down doing 30 and you're looking out the window when you're driving the car, you're not concentrating in front of you, then again, you're doing a legal action, which has caused a collision or may have stopped you preventing the collision. So the only thing with Xander Ferguson is he goes in with his shoulder leading like this, and then it's irrelevant then what the action of Wyn Jones is. Now, Wyn Jones does slightly move up the last minute, and if Xander Ferguson would have come in to make a legal clear out, so his hands are here ready to
You
clear
reckon
it
he would have
out,
got away with it?
where there could have been then a case of where there's no foul player, a guy has come in to make a legal clear out. There was nothing he could do because Wyn Jones stepped up split second before him. Nothing Xander Ferguson could have done to avoid that. Then the referees were thinking, well, is there foul play here? No, there isn't. Play on. Or they could have been, well, there is foul play. He has hit him in the head, but there are mitigation circumstances here, so it's a penalty or a yellow. But because Xander Ferguson was completely illegal always, then he has no defence then. He's committed an illegal act, so mitigation plays no part for it. And because of that reason, then to me, it's a red card. But if he'd have come in legally to clear out, which we just spoke about earlier on, then he wouldn't have been at fault.
This is why he's a ref.
Spot on, Nigel. Spot on.
This is why
Did you hear that, Nigel? Or did you hear that, Ryan?
What was
Tell
that?
you what, no, but see see the 30 mile an hour thing, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
Nigel will give you that on the pitch, and he'll explain it for about 2.5 minutes, halfway through a game. Right.
He just knew you were out of breath, and he was just giving you a chance to catch your breath again.
And then explain it all, and then at the end you're like, yeah, all right, yeah. You'd be a bloody good salesman, Nigel, tell you that. A bloody good salesman.
I feel like we're going to learn so much.
Salesman.
We're going to learn so much on this podcast because that actually makes perfect sense if you think about it. Well, I suppose to finish off on the weirdest incident of the weekend, which was when Joe Simmons had his conversion charged down to the point it was kicked off the tee. So this has divided the rugby community. I want to know, do you think this was the right call to let it stand, or was this just part of his fly half pre-kick routine? Nigel, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I think what's caused a lot of controversy and discussion around it is the referee's explanation where he said you moved your shoulders. But moving your shoulders is irrelevant. You need to take your first step in your run-ups. You're not sort of shuffling your feet and getting yourself ready, because everybody's got a different technique now in kicking. For me to allow a charge like that, I would want to see the kicker taking a step forward and then his next step continues afterward. That is the commencing of the run-up for me. So now whether Joe Simmons actually did step forward, I don't know. And only Christopher Ridley can sort of really see that from where he is, unless they got an angle to prove that he has. But to me, shuffling your feet or stepping back a bit or moving your shoulders is not commencing your run-up. So if that's what Joe Simmons has done, then I think the sensible and the rugby decision, which everybody would understand, would have been, hang on now, he hasn't started his run-up, go back, and then Joe Simmons goes again. But if Christopher Ridley has clearly seen him taking the first step and then continuing, then Christopher Ridley would have been right within the law. But moving the shoulders is what's confused a lot of people. Moving the shoulders is not starting a run-up, but otherwise Dan Biggar would have had every conversion charge down when he does his shoulder shuffles. So,
or the old head one.
Yeah, so I think you need to apply a bit of common sense around situations like that. But to be fair to Christopher Ridley, if he felt, no, you started your run-up, you took the first step, and then obviously then that's his view on it. But yeah, it's a tough one without you actually being there and seeing at the time. But to me, my personal view, I'd have probably said, look, hang on now, he hasn't started his run-up, you go back and let's go again.
Did you ever experience something like that throughout your career? Or
yes. In Ireland, New Zealand in 2013, when the score was 22-all, New Zealand scored right at the end, conversion to come. And what had happened, I think it was, pretty sure, was it Luke Fitzgerald and Tommy Bowe playing that game, Zeebs? Were you playing?
No, I wasn't. No,
so you were injured, Zeebs.
Was I?
You were Luke Fitzgerald and Tommy Bowe were playing that day, I remember. And about 5-10 minutes into the second half, or the end of the first half, when New Zealand scored the first try, which could have been at the end of the first half or beginning of the second half, they charged early, clearly early. And I said to them, if you'd have missed that conversion, you would have had to take it again because you charged early. Wait until he starts his run-up. But this happened early on in the game, and obviously then at the end of the game, obviously Ireland are hugely frustrated that New Zealand hang on the ball for just only like New Zealand can do for about 30 phases, or like Ireland have done as well, and scored the try to take him to 22-all. So then when he's lining up to take the kick, Luke Fitzgerald and Tommy Bowe start charging early again. And I thought, if he misses this now, he's going to have to take it again. And of course, he misses it. Yeah. So I said, look, and it was a clearly early charge. So, the easy decision that day, and may well have been the popular decision, would have been just to ignore what they'd done and just finish the game at 22-all. But I couldn't do that because I knew deep down I was ignoring a blatant foul by Ireland, and I was then avoiding making the correct decision, albeit a big decision. And I couldn't do that. I'm there to do the right decision. And I said, look, you charged far too early. You're going to have to take it again. And he took it again. And then obviously, if you take it the second time, because of an illegal charge, then the second charge is disallowed. And I'm standing there thinking, typically now he's going to get this smack in the middle of the post. And it goes smack in the middle of the post. And New Zealand finished 24-22. But in all fairness to the Irish boys, they knew they had charged early and they knew it was the right thing to do. So it has happened. And it happened to me up in Leeds and Perpignan in the European Cup. And I'm going back, the best part of maybe 15 years or so. It was Gordon Ross was playing outside half for Leeds. And it was 2019, conversion to come, last play of the game for Leeds to win the game. Gordon Ross lines up to take the conversion, and Perpignan charge. They didn't charge early, but 2 or 3 of the players charged and shouted out as they're charging, which you can't do. Gordon Ross misses. I then take the conversion again, charge is disallowed. And of course, next one goes straight to the middle, and they win then 21-20. I go into the changes after the game. I can't remember the name of the Perpignan coach that day, but he didn't knock on my door. He kicked my door and it came off the hinges, shouting something in French. And I just answered back in my best Welsh. So I didn't know what he was saying. He had no idea what I was saying, and he just stormed off. But it was the right decision to do.
I was at that Irish game, and I've been to many since, and I have never experienced an atmosphere like that day. It was just insane, but it was just so upsetting.
Of
It
all
was
the
an
times
amazing game.
of all the times I've refereed in Ireland, that is the best atmosphere that I've ever, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in any stadium in the world over all the 32 years that I've refereed. The other one that comes really close to that in Ireland would have been Munster against Wasps in the last pool match deciding game back in 2008, when they needed to beat Wasps. And obviously they went on then to win the European Cup, which I refereed the final that year as well in the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. And I remember sending Lawrence Dallaglio off, yellow card him, beginning of the second half, down to the far end of Thorman Park. It was a drizzly day, 28,000 packed in there, all singing Fields of Arthur and Rye. And I sent Dallaglio off for a professional foul, killing the ball in his own 22. And as he's trudging off the field, the whole of the stadium just erupts in absolute cheer and applause and booing Dallaglio. And the atmosphere that day was, it was something special. But yeah, you're right, that day in the Viva Stadium, that was something special. It certainly was.
Yeah, the Irish fans can be special. I think it was that day, we're just so happy to, get to see the All Blacks play. And then it was, okay, like then there was this, all of a sudden there was this belief, it's like we could actually do it. And it was just, oh my God, like it really was an amazing game.
And for 60 minutes, Ireland were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant for 60 minutes. And then New Zealand clawed their way back. One of the other atmospheres was up in Edinburgh, is the Calcutta Cup. The only Calcutta Cup I've ever refereed, only refereed one Calcutta Cup. 2016 or 17, I think it was, wasn't it, Ryan? When you beat England up in Murrayfield, I think it was probably 2017, maybe or 2018. The atmosphere that day, and they started singing the anthem then again, Flower of Scotland, sort of the last couple of minutes of the game as well, when I think Scotland were in the lead by about 2 scores that day, and the atmosphere. So when people ask what stadium has the best atmosphere, it's a lot to do with the actual occasion and the game itself that day. What's on it, who's playing. That is a lot. So it's not really the stadium that makes the atmosphere. It's actually the people in it and the occasion that contributes to that day. And obviously you have stadiums like the Millennium Stadium, if they're much closer and on the field than or Principality Stadium, that obviously adds to it as well.
Absolutely. Well, it just makes you miss being in the stadiums now, doesn't it? It makes you miss the fans. Well, Nigel, we'll move on. So last weekend, we saw Luke Pearce warn the Irish not to try and buy penalties. So who is the best player that you've refereed who is just brilliant at winning penalties due to their acting abilities?
Alan Quinlan, without a shadow of a doubt. When I was reffing Quinny, you not only have to watch the other players on the field and what was going on, you have to keep an eye on him all the time. He was always in the middle of things. He had that brilliant knack of sort of doing the little things, just in the corner of your eye, just enough for you to think, what's he done there now? And you just can't see it. And he was one of the great characters of the game as well. And it was always a pleasure to referee him. I remember I actually refereed the Leinster-Munster game in Cork Park in 2009 in the semi-final of the European Cup. Oh, what a game! What an atmosphere! Cork Park was packed out, and Munster were the big guns. They were the favourites, and then that was Leinster's turning point. They beat Munster that day. They were the underdogs, and of course it was the year of the Lions. And obviously Quinny was picked to go to the Lions, and obviously. He got involved in a little bit of gouging on Leo Cullen in the game, which none of us saw. And Derek Bevan was my TMO, and TMO back then couldn't come in for foul play. So we go upstairs afterwards. It'd been a brilliant game of rugby, absolutely brilliant game of rugby. The atmosphere was electric. We've seen nothing like it. Go upstairs for a pint and something to eat afterwards. And Quidney comes over. There's just news had just broken now that there's going to be a sighting. There was a gouge. And the whispers were that it was Alan Quinlan. So Derek Bevan said to me, he's in trouble, he said. Derek Bevan said to me, he's in trouble because he'd heard of a sighting. And I said, well, did he gouge? I said, yeah, he did gouge. He said, I think he's going to be in trouble. So we sit down. So Quinny comes over. He said, oh, there's talk of a sighting now, Nigel said. I said, well, I haven't seen anything. I said, but Eric tells me, yeah, that he has seen it. And Quinny said, yeah, but how will they know it's me? Eric Bevan went to him, Alan, he said, the guy that had his hands around the eyes had a pair of gloves on, and you were the only one wearing a pair of gloves that day. And Quinny went, oh, fuck. Which was a shame because, you know, he like, it's just one of those moments of madness, I guess. And, you know, he so deserved to go on the Lions that year. And it was a real shame. I really, really felt for him. I really did.
Oh,
he brings it on himself, though, like yourself, Ryan.
I got a bad rep, but I'm all right, aren't I?
Not too bad in small doses.
There you go.
Well, Nigel, if you could play 10 minutes instead of the full 80, it would be very helpful.
Thank you, Nigel. Keep him coming.
Nigel, is he a good captain to deal with?
Yeah, you know, again, you know, speak as you find. And I think a sign of a good captain will not only be able to lead his team and have respect for his team and, you know, won't ask his team to do something he wouldn't do himself. You know, puts himself really at the heart of things, which Ryan obviously does. But also as well, a good captain will also know his referees as well. So, you know, some referees where a captain can be a bit more verbal with and sort of, you know, put their opinion across at the referee. Then you'll also know, well, I got this referee today. I know I'm going to have to be careful how I speak to him when I speak to him. And, you know, so a good captain does that. And that's what I found with Ryan is that, you know, he had the ability to do that. I've seen him sometimes when the referee's here and thinking to myself, well, if I was refereeing that game today, you wouldn't be saying that. And to be fair to him, he was very respectful and he didn't do that when I was refereeing him. And so, yeah, he was a good captain to deal with. But, you know, he did what a captain is there to do, is to lead his team and also then to challenge a referee and put his point across if he thinks, you know, that there's something that needs to be addressed.
You happy with that, Ryan?
Yeah. I'm going to have him again soon at some point. So now we always get on live. Like I've always said it, like one of the refs I love being ref by, because this is something I've spoken about a lot recently as well. And here is just being able to talk to you. Honestly, my biggest pet hate is when the referee gives it, don't talk to me, and puts their hand in the face. And honestly, it drives me insane. And it just makes the players get more angry at the ref and want to, you know, argue with him more. But Nigel, you've always got an explanation, like the 30 and 40 mile an hour bloody speeding one. He's always got something there that he'll explain to us. And you're like, yeah, okay, now I understand it. So you've been good, Nigel.
Bullshit baffles brains. That's one thing I learned when I started refereeing. And the Christina, the best one was racing against Ulster out in the wonderful stadium in Paris. When
you have to bring that up.
I think I know what you're talking about.
The excitement got the best of us. You know?
So Nigel, do you want to explain to our listeners what incident you're referring to here? I know exactly which one you're talking about.
I completely forgotten about that.
And you know, what exactly did you do now? I can't remember. I remember I had a word with you for. What was it for then?
You put your hand in the face of Mikey Lowry.
Calm down. No,
you did.
Didn't you tap him on his? You tapped him on his head or something like that, wasn't it?
No. Christina's right. To be fair, I celebrated a little bit early.
That's yes, I do remember. There we go.
I do that in training all the time. It's it just took over me, and it happened in the game. Won't happen again. I apologize, though. I apologize.
Yeah, you did. You apologized straight away, and there was no edge to it. There was no nastiness to it. It's just one of those things that happens, you know. But
he'd been watching too much in the NFL, eh?
That's
his problem.
Oh no, there's actually a guy in the NFL called the Cheetah, and Tyreek Hill is his name. And every time he's scoring a touchdown, he gives it the two fingers to the fellas trying to catch him. But he's unbelievably fast, so whenever he gets away, like, he knows there's nobody catching him, so he always puts out the two fingers while he's running past them. I was watching a bit too much of him.
I look forward to seeing that, Seems.
You do? I send it on. Cheetah is his name.
Well, Nigel, along with being a successful referee, you are also a viral superstar on YouTube with videos amassing millions of views with your best moments and one-liners. So do you ever watch these videos?
No, I don't watch them, but when I do a lot of speaking and stuff. When I speak in some things, they sometimes play the video before when they introduce you, or it'll come up on your Twitter feed sometimes. And, I come off a game sometimes, and then my mates will text, or I'll see it on Twitter, or people will say, oh, what you said today was brilliant, so funny, it's gone viral. And I go, what the hell did I say today? And then when I look at it, I think, do people really think that's so funny? So, I just look. I'm just myself on the field. I was on stage in my local workingmen's club at 13 years of age doing stand-up comedy. So, humor has been a huge part of my upbringing. My father, my family around us, and it's a huge part of the community where I was brought up in on a council estate in rural West Wales. So, it's who I am. And when I'm on that field, I don't say it to be disrespectful to anybody or nothing like that. I just say it as it is, and that's exactly what happened out in that game in Thorman Park between Munster and Benetton Treviso. Where I hadn't refereed Benetton for about 4 or 5 years. And then I'm refereeing against Munster, and Tobias Porter's the scrum half was playing for them that day. And obviously I'd never refereed him. And about 5-10 minutes in the game now, and he's starting to chirp away and complaining to me and waving his arms about decisions. And I just thought to myself, what the hell is this guy now then? I don't think I've refereed this guy before, because if I had, he wouldn't be chipping away like this. And I thought, if he chips away again now, he's going to have it. So anyway, about 10 minutes later, he chips away again and complains and goes like this. And I said, right. I said, but blew the whistle. I said, hang on now. I said, I don't think we met before. And that's exactly where that came from, because a couple of minutes later, I was thinking, I don't think I've refereed this guy before, or he wouldn't be behaving like this. I said, I don't think we met before. Look, if you want to, the law is quite clear, that's a turn of a maul. That's completely legal. If you want to behave like this, then, go and play another game. This is not soccer. So, and I just said it as it was, and then obviously it went viral. They made T-shirts out of it. And that's probably what I'll be very sad, mind. When you be remembered for one thing in all your career of 32 years of refereeing, it'll probably be because of this is not soccer. And that's where it came from. I just said it as it was. So, but I don't, I'm quite aware of them. I've seen the videos when people post them and stuff like this, or they're playing when you're embarrassed before you get up and speak in a dinner or something. But I certainly don't sit down and watch them. No.
People in football must hate you, Nigel, because you've done that before as well with a certain player for Scotland. Do you remember that one?
Oh, off in Newcastle in the World Cup. Remember that? Where Hoggy took, they're not funny enough, Ryan. John Hoggy's old man, run touch for me in one of my first ever games in the old Celtic League. It was the Borderers against Connaught up in the Borderers, and it was a New Year's Eve game because a couple of my mates went up to Edinburgh that weekend or that couple of days, and we stayed over there for Hogmanay. And Hoggy's old man actually run touch for me in that game. And Hoggy was there with him as a kid. So every time I see him now, I go, how's your old man? He says, yes, he's good. And of course he took a bit of a dive in that game, didn't he? Tried to milk a penalty, and anyway, I wasn't having it. So we were playing in Newcastle in the football grounds. So I just said, look, if you want to behave like that, then come back here in 2 weeks and play. All I remember is Laidlaw, the captain, standing next door to me, giggling away.
That's the best bit, because when you say it, you can actually hear it over your mic. Yeah. Greg's little chuckle.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean with the common sense side of things, and having that shit with the players. So some referees would straight over to Hoggy and have a crack at him, but you could see he'd been an absolute twat about it. And you made him feel like even more of a twat by doing that. So it was like, here's your medicine, take it.
I refereed one game and he was going to say or do something. And he realized and he went, no, I'm not going to do it. And then he went back he went.
Nigel, have you ever, after you've come out with a one-liner, have you ever just gone, oh yeah, that was good? Is there anything that's do you have a favorite one-liner that you've come out with in the past?
No, not really, to be honest, because I honestly don't say them to be funny or to think that was good. I honestly don't. And as I said, sometimes I say things and I don't realize that people tell me afterwards what I actually said, or that they thought it was funny. So, probably one I really did notice, I did say, because everybody laughed and I laughed as well, was in the it was Harlequins against Montpellier in the European Cup in the Stoop, and Dave Ward was playing hooker for Harlequins. And he chucked the ball into the line out, and it was the worst throw-in I've ever seen. I think anybody's seen it. Pretty much landed in the scrum half's hands. That's how bad it was. It was that crooked. And everybody sort of just went, oh my God. People were sort of thinking, he went a bit red because it was such a bad throw-in. Everybody was going, wanting to sort of laugh, but thinking, oh, it was that bad, we can't. And then I just blew up and gave a scrum. And when he came, he didn't know where to look. He just went all red. And I just said to him, I said, oh, I'm straighter than that one. he smiled, everybody laughed, and then it just broke the ice. And I did say to I just sort of thought to myself then, I just sort of giggled to myself because we were all laughing about it, really, So that's probably the only time where I've actually had a little grin myself, because everybody's laughing as well as me as well at that situation, really.
You've officiated Israel Folau on countless occasions. And at one point you even stated that he was the best fullback in the world for a number of years. But what was your reaction to his behaviour and his public statements over the last few years?
Disappointed, because when you are in that position that he is, he has a huge influence on people, particularly young people who look up to him. And obviously then when he uses a platform like that, it has a huge reach. And although I can respect his choice to have that opinion because of his deep religious beliefs, although I don't agree with that opinion, at least he was somebody that was not hiding behind a fake account spreading hate. It was him saying it as it was, which I don't agree with. And I don't think you should be using a platform to spread any hate whatsoever. So that isn't acceptable. So even though he's entitled to those views, it also comes an accountability and responsibility as well, which I felt they dealt with in the correct way. So I was hugely disappointed about that. And I would have liked to sit down with him, have a conversation and try to get him to understand just what we mentioned earlier about, look, these religious beliefs you're following are from thousands and thousands of years ago. And also as well, you have to understand that out of those 8 or 9 things that, the 8 things he said that, you were going to go to hell for, only one of those, you didn't have a choice. And that was your sexuality. There are many, many things in life we can choose. You can choose where you live, where you work, what sport you play, what your values, your moral compass is. Many, many things in life we choose, but our sexuality is not one of them. So it was hugely disappointed, and he had to be held accountable for those words of hate without a shadow of a doubt. And he was, and it was dealt with, and he played no further part in the sport. And if he was to go back to play the sport of rugby without actually acknowledging that, what he said was not appropriate, was wrong to say in a position of influence like he is, then I would be very, very disappointed with any club or country that allows him to play the sport again. Mm-hmm. Because even though I can accept, okay, that's his beliefs, that's his opinions, that there is no place to spread those beliefs in a hateful way like he did. And to me, that was totally unacceptable. And that was very disappointing for me. If he was to say, come back, look, I have my own beliefs. I apologize for using my platform to spread hate. I won't be doing it again. And I won't be spreading any more hate on my platform. Then you can say, right, okay, at least he's said to everybody now that his actions were wrong. But, that hasn't even happened. He hasn't acknowledged that, which is disappointing as well.
Yeah, because I think there's rumors about him joining professional rugby again next season in France. So say, he does go ahead, he does play somewhere in France, he doesn't acknowledge what he said. Would you agree to share a pitch with him if he hasn't apologized for everything that he caused, all the hurt that he caused?
It's a bit more, I think, than sort of, it would be maybe a case then of, you can look at it in both ways. You can either stand by your principles and say, look, I'm sorry, no, I'm not going to go on the pitch with him. And then somebody else will go on maybe and do the game, or you take a stance on that pitch and you show to him, look, I'm gay, I'm quite entitled to be here like you are. Equality means that, that there's a place for me in sport. And I would, like to think that I would try and sort of get people to understand that and to try to get him to understand that by doing that, is you could look at it in both ways. Are we then giving, am I giving in to him, or rather am I showing him, look, hey, I'm, so it's a very difficult one to be honest of, and people will deal with it in a different way, I guess. But I think, what the whole of rugby needs to do would be to stand up to any form of discrimination, any form of racism, any form of inequality, any form of homophobia. Rugby as a whole has to stand up to that, and not individuals, but the whole game of rugby.
Nigel, what do you think about doing what Wigan Warriors did when he got announced doing a Pride Day? So you could do that in the top 14. Yeah. Top 14, every other club, when whoever, let's say, goes to Toulon, when Toulon come, it's a Pride Day. And Nigel gets down there and refs just to...
I suppose that's a little bit similar to what you asked me there now. I think rather than Wigan sort of boycotting, we're not turning up and turning it all into maybe a negative thing on them or a positive thing to them, the actual making it a Pride Day, I thought, sent a much stronger message across and out there to the likes of him. And I think that's, if I was to turn up to referee that game in my rainbow laces and maybe get a red and yellow card with a rainbow on them, I think that would challenge more than actually me sort of staying at home and refusing to do the game, I think.
When you look back over your incredible career, what would stand out to you as an overriding highlight?
That's a very, very difficult question, because there are so many occasions that would mean something special, like my first European final, my first Six Nations game, my first cap, the 100th game, your 50th game, which happened to be Brother Driscoll's last game in Dublin for Ireland as well. And there's so many things. The World Cup final, that epic game in 2013 between South Africa and New Zealand in Ellis Park, which many people say is the greatest game of rugby they've ever seen. But obviously the World Cup would be the pinnacle of that. But the game that I will remember more than anything, I went to do a Q&A in Pencoed Rugby Club, which is about an hour from where I live. Myself and Dan Lydiat were doing a Q&A on a Wednesday night. We were meeting the kids first, and then the adult version later on after the kids had gone home. So the under-12s rugby team were there in part of this Q&A. And then the coach came up to me and said, Nigel, I want to give the kids a surprise. We're playing a game against Cwmbran and the 12s. We'd have both been unbeaten in Wales for the last 2 years. We haven't played each other yet until next month. We're playing in the Cup, in the Welsh Cup. Would you mind coming and refereeing that game? And I said, so on a Sunday, 11 o'clock kickoff. I said, yeah, of course. Depending, as long as I'm not away refereeing. Anyway, the fixtures come out. On the Saturday night, I was down to referee Leicester against Ulster in the last pool game up in Welford Road of the European Cup. So once the fixture came out about a week or two before, I rang the guy in the coach up and I said, look, I've got a referee up in Leicester. It's about 4.5-5 hours drive for me to come back after the game, but I'll come back after the game, 6 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night. I'll do the game on Sunday, but can you put the kickoff back an hour or so? So we put the kickoff back to 12:30. So great. So I drove home, got home in the house about something like 2 o'clock in the morning, got up then, went to Pencoed Rugby Club. And this was the main game on the Saturday night, because whoever won out of Leicester and Ulster would go through to the quarterfinals, and Ulster beat them that night in Welford Road. So I turn up in Pencoed Rugby Club now. The coaches have made sure the kids are in the change room. They don't know I'm arriving. They don't know I'm reffing the game. So I go into the changing rooms, and some of the kids just go, "Oh my God, it's Nigel Owens!" and "Oh, are you going to ref our game?" And so I, and then as I go around checking the boots, trying to make it a big thing for them, as you would do in any game, there's a little winger sitting in the corner. There must be something about these wingers. Little winger sitting in the corner, and he goes to me, "I hope you're going to referee this game better today than you did last night." And this was the under-12s in Pencoed Rugby Club. And I just laughed to myself, and I thought to myself, you know what? This is what makes the game so special. This guy doesn't care who I am. He doesn't care what game I refereed last night. He just now is concerned that I referee his game correctly. And he was right. That's what you have to do. So that'll always stand out to me as one of those special moments in rugby, I think, up there along with the World Cup final and everything, of course.
Oh, that is class. Well, I've got another difficult question. So I'm going to ask you now, do you have any regrets either on or off the pitch throughout your career, which you kind of wish you could go back and change?
Yeah, of course. I think when you start refereeing, you've got to understand, and this is what I tell a lot of referees, because if you don't understand and accept this, you're going to find it very difficult to referee at the top of the game. You're not going to go out in the field and not make a mistake. It's impossible. It's impossible to referee a game of rugby without making a mistake. I've come close a few times, but I haven't managed it. It's impossible to do. You can't do it. You can't do it. And so there are games where I've, reviewed my own performance and, how the hell did I get that wrong? Or, that's a tough call. That could have gone either way. So if you were the home team or if you were the winning team, it was a good decision. If you were on the other end of the decision, you're thinking it's the wrong decision. And there are so many of those greys. So yeah, there are games when I look back and think, I should have got that right. Or how the hell did I get that wrong? Or why didn't I see that? But I think the one that stands out for me is I did Leinster against Wasps, European quarter-final, my first knockout game in Europe back in 2007. And then on the Wednesday, and this game went really well. I think it was a brilliant game of rugby. There's something like 34-24, something like that. No issues. Great game of rugby. Everybody enjoying it. Nobody talking about the referee. Get a good mark. My first knockout big game. Really pleased with how it went. And then on the Wednesday, I was refereeing my old school against another local school in the Welsh Schools Cup. And I just turned up to this game, cock of the walk. I just, it's just a school game. Well, what am I giving my time up here to be here today? I've just refereed a quarter-final. This game is nothing. And I just went out in the field and I was shit. I was absolutely terrible. I was letting too much things go. I was getting things wrong because I wasn't focusing and working hard on my performance. And I landed up sending a player off because of my fault. Because I let so many things go, the game became a mess. He made some mistakes then. He got frustrated with me and I sent him off, which was my fault. And after the game, this old guy came up to I think he was a grandparent to one of the kids. And he said, "Nigel, I think you're a brilliant referee," he said. "And you were brilliant on Saturday. But just remember, whatever game you referee, the players will always expect the same performance from you." And I thought to myself, do you know what is right? What right do I have to turn up here to think that this game is below me? And from that day on, I made sure every single game I've refereed, no matter what it is, I've given it my best. I've treated it like a test match or a cup final. And yes, of course, you referee the local under 12s, under 14s, a little bit different. You let a little bit things go. You coach a bit more as you're refereeing. Of course you do, but you still got to go out there and give it your best. And that is the biggest regret, was sending that player off when it was my fault he got sent off.
Did you speak to him after the game?
I saw him out in Swansea, in Wine Street in Swansea, about 5 or 6 years after that on a Saturday night. I was in the bar in Revs in Swansea, Revolution, in the bar, probably up to here by then. And this guy comes up, he says, "You remember me, do you?" And then when somebody says that, you're thinking, Christ, what is this now then? And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." He said, "Don't you remember that game, Meisterorva against Gowerton Schools?" And I clicked straight away. I said, "Oh, bloody hell, don't tell me you're the guy I sent off." He said, yes, you are. And I said, look, I'm sorry. That was my fault. And he said, I knew it. I told my dad it was your fault, not mine. So anyway, I bought him a pint. He bought me a pint, and we had a couple of pints on the bar there. So yeah, I did see him a couple of times after that then, yeah.
Oh, that is class. Well, apart from him, I suppose in the professional game, who was the toughest person you had to deal with as a referee?
That's a very good question. Toughest player.
It's going to be a 9.
Oof.
It's got to be a 9. It's going to be a 9.
Ryan has a thing against 9s. If you haven't ever figured this out, Nigel.
Right,
but,
Dylan for sure.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine have to referee Munster when you were O'Gara and Stringer playing together? Can you imagine what that was like?
Bad enough for Sexton and Moore, isn't
it? Yeah, Johnny can be very challenging. Yeah, a lot of players can be very challenging. But I know there's quite a few of them I think would be. When I mean difficult to referee, they're not difficult to referee. They do their job. They challenge you as a captain, or they ask you the questions. If in the front row and stuff like that. So I don't think there's one that stands out. But every time you used to referee O'Gara and Stringer, you knew you're going to have an extra 2 referees on the field to help you.
Brilliant.
Oh God!
But they were always respectful. I'll give them that.
Yeah, they were quite switched on, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
They knew the rules down to the T. Yeah.
I was out doing. I went out to referee. It was the game actually where Munster beat Northampton. Dylan was playing in that game, so just as well he's not here listening to this. It was the game where O'Gara dropped that goal after something like 44 phases to win the game against Northampton. And about a couple of months before that, I'd gone to referee in Thormond Park in the Pro 12, whatever it was back then. And in the airport in Shannon, it was a couple of weeks before Christmas, and Ronan O'Gara's book was there. So I bought the book for my dad as a Christmas present. So anyway, my dad said when he got the book, he was hugely disappointed. No, he wasn't. When he got the book, when he got the book, he said, "Oh, it's a shame you didn't get it signed." And I never go asking players to sign things, but I thought I'll put it in my bag, and if I get a chance when I referee him again, I'll ask him if he'll sign it. So I put it in my bag for this game, and he came into the change rooms after that game that day, knocked on the door and came in and said, "Nigel, thanks for the game." And he sat down there for a couple of seconds and had a chat. And I said, "I got your book in the bag I bought for my dad for Christmas. Would you mind signing it?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." So he signed the book. I put it back in my bag. Following week, went up to my dad's house, gave it to my dad, and my dad opened it, and my dad was looking at it and said, "Oh," he said, "have you seen what is written in here?" I thought, "Oh shit, what's written in here now? I should have read this before giving it to my dad." And he'd written, "To Geraint," my dad's name, obviously, "To Geraint, I hope you enjoy reading the book. You can be very, very proud of your son, Ronan O'Gara." And I thought, well, fair play to him, of all the challenges on the field, when he's in your ear, and giving his point of view, but in a respectful way, I got to say, he took the time to write that in, and I thought, fair play, a great player and a great bloke as well.
You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time and your insights, and hopefully we can get you back on the show in the very near future.
Yeah, my pleasure. All the best. See you both.
Thanks a million, Nigel. Good to see you, bud.
Bye-bye.
See you, Nigel. Cheers.
Well, that is it from us. Thanks to Nigel Owens, Ryan Wilson and Simon Zebo, and thanks to you for listening. More offloading next week. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you get it as soon as it's released. Leave us a rating and review if you can, and don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.